I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our first sponsored live stream for the SVG Card Crafter Success Summit. We are so excited to bring on to the stage Chelsea Souter from Houston Acrylic. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for agreeing to be our sponsor. I cannot wait to see what you're going to be showing us. All right, so sorry about that. All right, so I do want to remind everybody that we do have a special exclusive promo code just for the next 48 hours. So if you have been thinking about getting into laser crafting, or you are looking for another supplier for your wood, your acrylic, I'm sure they've got lots of other products that she's going to be talking about today. You definitely want to go and check them out. The link is down in the banner below, stampmesomelove.com/Houston Acrylic. Be sure to use the code CCSS25 to get 20% off your purchase. All right, Chelsea, I'm going to let you have the stage, and I'm going to, let me see, how do I do that? Remove me from the stage. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I'm sure you guys might be able to tell I don't do the live streams that often. So thank you, Brandy, for the great introduction. I am Chelsea. I'm one of the co-owners at Houston Acrylic. Houston Acrylic is a supplier for a variety of different laser materials, not just acrylic. While acrylic is one of our favorite things that we offer, we do offer everything from double-sided adhesive, leatherette, MDF products, and some really unique stuff like stone veneer that I will be going over today. I know that some of you guys might have a laser. Some of you guys might be thinking about a laser. Some of you guys might not have lasers at all, and it's not in your repertoire because our craft closets are already full of things. And sometimes adding that one other machine just isn't going to quite make the cut. But sorry. But if anybody in the comments wants to put if they do have a laser, if they have a CO2 or a diode laser, just so I'm aware. Also, if anybody works with things like sublimation or whatever you like to make, and then if you do have like a Cricut or a vinyl cutter, things you like to make in the comments, people want to just share some stuff. That way I can have some insight as I go through things. I did go ahead and pull items that are, while they are laser friendly, I wanted to make sure I pulled items that were specifically diode laser friendly, because that is a more common laser for entry-level laser that some of you guys might be familiar with, like the Glowforge Aura. And then I also went ahead and pulled some of our items that you can cut or work with on a Cricut, or you might use for your Cricut projects. So diving into the materials, the first thing I wanted to go ahead and start with is what one of the items we sell, which is our craft plastic sheets. Oops, sorry, it's going to pick up on me as I move. So craft plastic sheets are a super thin plastic. They're about 0.025 inches thick. They're thin and they are flexible, and you can actually heat form these. So that's a really cool thing that you can play with. I've heat formed and made some bows, some heat formed bows out of the craft plastic. But the craft plastic can be cut on a lot of the vinyl cutters if you use their like heavy duty blade or like the knife blade. I know that I've seen some people do it on the Cricut maker with the knife blade. on cutting the craft plastic sheets. So the craft plastics or sheets are great if you want something that might be a little bit more durable, and you can layer them with craft. This is craft plastic on top of craft plastic, but you can also do it where maybe you want a more durable backer for something, but you're going to do vinyl on the front. So this is a great option. If you do have a diode laser, all the craft plastic sheets except for the translucent ones are able to be cut effectively. Even I know some diode lasers, you can't cut blues or you can't cut reds, but for the craft plastic sheets on our Aura, we were able to cut all of the blue craft plastic sheets, and the only diode ones we couldn't cut were the translucent ones. So these are great for a lot of those projects I talked about. We also have a clear craft plastic, and that's really cool for making stencils. If you want more durable stencils that are going to have some wear and tear and you want them to be reusable and you can rinse them off. So we have a variety of colors. We've got pastels, we have primary colors, we've got hot pink, which is one of my favorites. And then we also do have some more that are like a more metallic finish, like a gold and a copper. That you can get really creative with. One of the things I've seen a lot of people do with the craft plastic sheets is like place settings, like name place settings, custom place settings for like Thanksgiving or Christmas to just kind of make your table display a little bit more fun. So outside of the craft plastic colors, the other option I wanted to share with you guys is our leatherette. So we have a laserable leatherette, and it can be cut on your vinyl cutter machines. It can be cut on diodes. It can be cut on CO2 lasers. But engraving it, while most of them will engrave black, silver, or gold, depending on the style, I haven't personally tested it on a Cricut with the engraver tool. But I would say that you might have mixed results with the leatherette and the engraving just with how the material is manufactured. Here are some examples of the leatherette colors that we carry. So we've got a ton of fun colors. These ones are some of my favorites. They are the basketball textured or football textured. Obviously, I'm not playing with sports right now. Football textured leatherette and the basketball textured leatherette. So those are great for some like school spirit tags that you can make, things like that. And the leatherette works really great with vinyl as well. So this is a hat that I made, and this is the olive green leatherette. And then I just did a white puff vinyl for the lettering on top. So you can get really creative with the leatherette and the vinyl. We also have a variety of different leatherette blanks. So we have these leatherette magnetic bottle openers. And again, just because you might not be able to take advantage of the engraving feature on the bottle openers or the blanks, you can do any combination of, HTV, vinyl, different methods like that. Outside bottle openers, we have patches and we have keychains. Some of the colors that I think are really fun for the leatherette, and I'm sorry, I've got so much stuff here that I'm moving a lot of things around, are we have a rainbow leopard leatherette. So this is kind of fun and something new that you don't see a lot at least in the laser leatherette world. So this is rainbow leopard. And then my other favorites that we just got in are this holographic leatherette. So it's a silver holographic chrome leatherette that I think is just gorgeous. And then we also have this metallic copper leatherette. One of the things that we also sell if you are working with leatherette that I think is really beneficial, whether you're working with leatherette or any of our products, is the different adhesives. So we have a few different options of double-sided adhesive. The first one is, this is a durable heat and pressure activated adhesive. Specifically, it works specifically well with textiles, so like leatherette, but I have used it with acrylic when acrylic is being adhered to a textile. So if I'm doing an acrylic hat patch, or if I'm doing acrylic on leatherette, the durable, we sell these in 12 by 24 sheets, which is the same size as our leatherette sheets. And then if you're not looking for a heat activated double-sided adhesive, you want one that is just a pressure adhesive double-sided. We offer dual tight and 3M. The dual tight comes in 12 by 20 sheets, and the 3M comes in 12 by 12 sheets. And these are great options. I use this a lot if I'm doing, for example, here, this was craft plastic on craft plastic. If I do craft plastic on acrylic, if I do acrylic on wood, I tend to use the dual tight or the 3M double-sided adhesive. And then I was going to look really quickly to see, okay, I'm just making sure that I'm caught up on anything people have said in the comments or the chats. I'm open to any questions you guys might have, whatsoever. So then moving on from Leatherette, one of the other products we carry that is, I'm sorry my camera is set up to where it has to refocus every time I move. One of my favorite products that we carry is what we call Maker Stone, and it is a real stone veneer on a fabric backing, and it is a flex backing. So this is the Country Cream Maker Stone, and it's a little bit hard to tell in this lighting, but it has a shimmer, like a real quartz shimmer to it. Here's an example of the Country Cream Maker Stone. So this was a little placard we made for some Halloween decor, and it is the Country Cream Maker Stone as the backer, rose gold mirror acrylic that's been engraved on the front, and then pastel blush pink acrylic for the border, and it's all on an acrylic backer. But you can see how using the Maker Stone, you could get creative with incorporating it on your Cricut or your diode projects.
I thought I would just hop on here, Chelsea, because I have some questions. You know, as I told you before we jumped on live, is that I just got my Glowforge a couple months ago. I'm curious about that stone veneer that you just showed us.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to cut that out with a Cricut or no?
Yeah. So this is all, as long as so we have two styles of Maker Stone. We have the original Maker Stone, and we have Maker Stone Flex. Maker Stone Flex is what you're seeing here, and it has the fabric backing, and it has this flexibility to it. This can be cut out on a Cricut, Silhouette, any type of vinyl cutter. You probably would want to still use the deep cut blade or like the knife blade. And we have it in the Flex style. We've got it in copper, which is probably one of my favorites. I use copper a lot for adding it to like wedding signs, like the backer for wedding signs or table numbers. And then I also use them. I use this a lot for all of the bug shadow boxes I make. So like I have like bugs in my, like moths and beetles, and I like to put these in as the background, the shadow box, but like cut it and do inlays. So we've got it in copper, stone. We do have a pink stone.
Yay, my color. Yes. So I was just wondering, I was just thinking to myself, I'm always kind of like brainstorming, how can I use this new product and think, and I was thinking that, especially if they're in colors, that might make a really cute texture to like a floral design that you cut out on your Cricut. And then, but my question about adhering it. So I'm assuming that you would put the adhesive sheet on it first, then cut it out, or how do you usually do that?
Yeah, so it would depend what adhesive you're using. If you're using any of our adhesive sheets, whether it's the 3M or so the double-sided adhesive or the heat pressure activated durable adhesive, I typically would put it on before I cut. You might need to adjust the thickness of your material on your machine, or it could be like, oh, you could get away with this blade if you are doing it without the adhesive, but on the adhesive, you do need to have the knife blade or a heavier duty blade. But I usually always do my adhesive first before cutting. And that's if it's on a Cricut, on a diode, on a CO2, whatever I'm working with. If I'm doing double-sided adhesive, the whole point of it is that it takes away some of the labor of a normal glue. So I typically use a double-sided adhesive for the Maker Stone Flex and put it on ahead of time. It does work, like you had mentioned about doing like the different like textures or florals. One of my favorite things to do is taking the black Maker Stone, which looks exactly like slate, and then I will layer it with like a black leatherette or a black glossy acrylic to get kind of this monochromatic look that is still very elegant and has a lot of dimension without falling flat.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So, yeah, we've got a handful of colors. One of the colors you guys might like as well, that's a little bit fun, is the silver luster. So this is like a metallic silver. That's
the
really
other thing I was thinking about is, so a lot of card makers use a die cut machine, and they will cut, certain shapes out to be on like a background or like a framing type thing on the back of the card. And so I was thinking, if you were kind of going for that rustic vibe or that country chic vibe, then maybe cutting out the white stone one on your Cricut and laying that on the card. And then on top of that, put your paper type cutouts and stuff. Question though is that I'm wondering if I was applying paper to that stone finish, what type of adhesive should we use? Because we typically will use something like Barely Art Glue. And I don't know if that's going to be strong enough for making sure. I know it's strong enough for the paper part, but I don't know if it's strong enough for the plastic part.
So I'm familiar with Barely Art Glue. I haven't used it on the Maker Stone. The thing that would be if you're putting something on top of the Maker Stone, and if it's a paper, you could use the double-sided adhesive with the paper. That might be a bit overkill from a price perspective, but you would save on mess and labor. So that would be, you kind of have to, whenever you're doing these projects, depending if it's a passion project or something you're trying to, sell or be price conscientious of, sometimes the double-sided adhesive makes sense. Sometimes you're like, no, I'm going to stick to the glue. So if you're working with glue with a paper on top of the Maker Stone, I've used with success, I've used the equivalent of like the Gorilla Glue Clear Grip or Loctite Extreme Glue, like the gel glue. You could use some types of other like super glues. The one thing you need to be aware of is that the different stones do have different textures. So for example, the copper and like the black is really, really smooth on the front. So you can pretty much get away with almost any glue for any material that you're putting on the front of it. However, when you're working with like the silver luster or the country cream, you see how there's a lot more texture and give. So with that, doing a contact adhesive, like I've done a spray adhesive, I've done contact cement. Those would work better than some of the more like craft gel glues.
What about like foam tape?
Foam tape would work. It would certainly work. As far as it being, I depending on the foam tape you're using, as far as the like permanence of the adhesion would be up for, that's where you would have some differences. Again, on things like the black, the moon gray, like the ones that have more of a smooth or satin finish, it works pretty well. The lusters or the country cream that do have the textured surface, more textured surface, those are the ones where they can get a little bit finicky.
And I saw one question in the chat asking if, there we go, thank you, Harriet, if the Maker Stone can be cut by hand. And if so, what kind of tool would you use?
It can be cut by hand. I've cut it, like I've trimmed it and cut it with heavy duty scissors. I made the mistake one time of using my beloved fabric scissors that I didn't realize were my fabric scissors. And everybody knows what a crime that is.
Yes.
I've used a box cutter. I do a lot of cosplay work, and I work with a lot of like EVA foam. So pretty much anything that I cut EVA foam with, I can cut the Maker Stone with by hand. So yeah, my box cutters, as long as you have a sharp enough blade, it does dull the blades out a little bit more than other materials because it is a stone veneer and a pretty, heavy fabric backer. So just be aware of that. Again, don't use your super nice scissors. Have your heavy duty scissors that you're okay knowing are going to get somewhere and tear.
Perfect. All right. Well, I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I was super curious about that. It looks like we've got about 10 minutes left. So I'll let you have the stage again, and you can show us whatever else you have, and then we will come back and do our giveaway.
Yeah. So outside of those, so the Maker Stone, the Leatherette, the craft plastic, those are all the items we sell that are fairly compatible regardless of your machine, from Cricut to CO2 laser and diode lasers. The other things that we do have that you might be interested in is you can engrave some acrylic on your Cricut machines there's an engraver tip out. I've seen a lot of people use a generic engraver blade that's a bit more heavy duty, and you get the scored effect. You don't get the filled line effect. It's similar to the same engraver tool you would use for like the anodized aluminum, and that effect, you can achieve it on acrylic. You typically want to stick with any of our, when you're doing it, because of how thick the material that can go through your machines are, usually any of our 1/8 acrylic thinner. So we have 1/8, 1/16, and then we have some flex acrylic that's even thinner than that. All of our 1/8 acrylic is approximately 3 millimeters. 1/16 is 1.5 millimeters. So those can go through and be engraved, and you get a scored and an etched look, not necessarily like a filled engrave. Can adhesive be a permanent fabric glue? On what material? On Leatherette and on the Maker Stone, I would say yes, depending on what the other material is. So depending on what the material it's being adhered to, then yes. So with the acrylic, some of the stuff that you would be able to engrave would be a lot of the, you'd want to be looking at the cast acrylics. I wouldn't look at the mirror acrylics or the iridescent acrylics, because those could have difficulty because of the films that are on them. And then we also do have flexible engraving plastic. This is really similar to the craft plastic sheets, where they're thinner and more flexible. These are about 0.02 inches. And again, they can be engraved. This is a laser engraved, but if you had an engraving tool, you could get that like etched scored look that you would see similarly on when you do like the aluminum etching, like the coated aluminum cards or tags that you've seen. And then, so yes, Dorothy, I will say getting a laser changed my making game, but they are a big investment. They're not as plug and play as a lot of people might think they are. And really do the research on the right laser for you by thinking about what materials you want to cut, or like what projects you want to do. Between diode and CO2, there's different materials you can and can't cut, things you can and can't do. And it breaks my heart. We've had people come into the store so excited, and they come up with all this material and say they just got a laser, and we're like, great, which laser? And then we have to say like, oh, you can't cut these things on that laser. Here's the things you can cut. We try to make it as easy as possible on our website. We do have a section for diode friendly materials if you're looking at a diode friendly material. Otherwise, anything on our site has been tested on a CO2 laser. So outside of the acrylic, the other thing I did want to bring up while we still had time was, if you do not have a laser, we do offer custom laser cutting services and print and cut services for UV printing and laser cutting. So for example, some of the stuff that we have on our website is, if you don't want to do a custom laser cutting service, we have some pre-cut blanks. So you can go and order different size arches, because maybe you want to do some table number arches in acrylic and you're going to add the vinyl. This right here, these are all acrylic arches in the different sizes that you can get online. And the white is white vinyl that we put on. So we have an acrylic shapes library with some pre-cut blanks you can purchase. Some of them you can purchase are like stocking tags. So you can get pre-cut stocking tags that instead of doing acrylic like I did here, you could do craft plastic or leatherette or vinyl on the blanks. And then if you don't see a blank that we offer, you can always go through our custom laser cutting services where you give us the file or you ask for, if you need file design help, that is something we offer. And you can say, I want 50 of these ornaments to be cut. And then you're going to get the cut as the backer and you're going to add the vinyl or the leatherette or whatever else you might be adding to it. Products for Cricut. So right now we have a handful of products that we got primarily for laser, but are compatible for Cricut, like the Maker Stone, the leatherette, and the craft plastic. Outside of those, we're always looking for bringing on different materials. And this is kind of new for us to be coming back into kind of like the Cricut or the die cut space ever since being in, we started as a laser material supply company specifically for CO2 lasers, and then we ventured into diode lasers. So we're always looking at growing our catalog of materials. So it's definitely something we'll be looking into, which is also one of the reasons we do great events like these. And we're so excited to try this one out and reach out to new people and see what could we be bringing to makers. Because we know a lot of our customers, they have a laser, but they also have a vinyl cutter or a CNC, because sometimes a Cricut is just better for certain types of cuts than a laser, even if a laser could cut it. So I think as far as that goes, the other thing I did want to bring up is we do offer, we do have sublimation acrylic and sublimation MDF. So you can see that these get a really, really bright, vibrant, high quality photo transfer, image transfer. So this is another one of those materials where if you can't cut the material yourself, we could cut out the shapes and the blanks for you through the cutting service, and you could do the sublimation and add that on your end. So otherwise, I think that covers everything.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chelsea. I'm actually hoping that maybe we could work together and do some tutorial classes with all your materials. That would be fun.
I was really hoping to have like one thing here to show that I did on the Cricut, and guess who found out this week? Husband's was cleaning out the garage and threw away my Cricut because he didn't think I used it anymore. So someone's in the doghouse right now.
Yes. If my wife came down and threw out anything in my craft room, I'm telling you, there would be divorce papers in the mail like ASAP.
He was like, it was dusty. You haven't used it since you got your laser. And I'm like, that doesn't mean I'll never use it.
Exactly. What was he thinking? So. All right, you guys. Now, I hope you have registered for the giveaway, because we are about to give away a $25 coupon. And don't forget, if you're interested in any of these materials, especially the ones that can be cut with a Cricut machine, that's an idea. Chelsea, does your website say whether it's Cricut compatible?
So that was actually something we had planned on doing, but we're like, no one would know us for that. And then literally when we made the decision not to have it on the site at first, oh, we do. We added it. Sorry. I was like, did we add it? We did go ahead and add it. I think some of the materials were still, the ones that you're going to see on there is going to be like the craft plastic I showed you, the leatherette, and the Maker Stone, and then the flexible engraving plastic. You're not going to see any of the acrylic that you could technically etch, because we only put something in our catalog if you can like cut it. Cut it first. Anything with engraving, the only reason it would be on there is if you could engrave it and it's like a blank. But yes, we do have, if you go to our website under featured, that's where we have a list of, you can go by to machine and it says CO2, diode, vinyl cutter, sublimation, and you can see which of those work. So there is a section there. I remember we weren't going to add it, and then we connected with you and we're like, let's let's see how this
Yeah,
goes.
absolutely. Okay, so definitely most of our users at this summit are Cricut designers, Cricut users, vinyl cutters, or whatnot. So having that ability for them to search directly is perfect. So head on over to stampmesomlove.com/Houston Acrylic. Make sure to use that promo code because that's why we track how much traffic Houston Acrylic got from this particular summit, and that is CCSS25. All right, you guys, I'm going to say goodbye to Chelsea, but we're going to see our premium VIPers in Zoom at 2 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wait.
Oh, I forgot the giveaway. Oh, my gosh. You know, Harriet's really good at that. She will pop up at times you're just not expecting it. All right. Sorry, bye. Let's do it. All right. So the winner of the giveaway is Laura. Laura's last name starts with an F and ends with an S. All right. Perfect. All right, Harriet, can we go now? Yes, she says yes. All right, you guys. Take care. If you're a premium, if you're a premium VIP or go to your VIP portal, make sure you check out the Zoom link and make sure you register so it'll give you the Zoom link in email and I will see you there. We are going to cut out, or we're going to design rather, some repeating patterns for us to cut out stencils, and then we're going to make some cards. All right, take care, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.